Welcome to the Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do podcast with your host, Tom Singer. In each episode, we explore the interesting lives of business leaders, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and others who have a healthy dose of the entrepreneurial spirit. It is time to explore something cool. Now, here is your host, Tom Singer.
And welcome to another episode of Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. Thank you so much for pulling your chair up to the cool kids table. If you're new to Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do, I created this show 4 years ago. We are just shy of episode number 400. I think this is 398, if I'm doing the math correct in my head. So we are just a week away, 2 shows from the big number 400. And I started it with the idea of being able to bring really smart people who are carving their own path in the world as business leaders, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and even people who have jobs but have that entrepreneurial spirit. Bring their wisdom, not only to myself, but to all of you who listen to the show. And we've been doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. So I hope that if this is your first time listening, that you'll come back, maybe go into the archives, listen to some other shows. And if you like the show, that you will immediately go and subscribe to it wherever you listen to podcasts, and then go tell a friend. The only way this show grows is somebody tells me they heard about it from somebody else they knew. And so if you like the show, don't be shy, tell a friend. So before we get started today, I've got to thank the first sponsor of this episode. So many of you offer physical products to your fans and your customers. And dealing with the physical stuff, that can be a pain, stealing your precious time. But my friends at Amplifier blend order fulfillment, screen printing, and on-demand production into a single self-service platform that you totally control. And I know this because I'm working with them. I'm in the process of creating some shirts that say, try new things, which if you listen to the show, know that's one of my mottos and things that I try to live by. And Amplifier is helping me get that out to the world. They can integrate your e-commerce shop and help you drive free giveaways. Hey, they're great for big internet powerhouses and entrepreneurs who are just starting out. And on-demand means no inventory risk. And as you grow and you want to stock up on inventory, Amplifier can handle that for you too. Go to amplifier.com/coolthings and sign up today. So today's show, we're going to talk money. We've got an entrepreneur who he started off in the Coast Guard and then he did something. I think he said he was a respiratory therapist, which sounds like something to do with healthcare. And then he needed to make more money and he joined the financial services world and he never looked back. Couple years after joining a big company, he went off on his own, and that's what he's been doing ever since. He's sort of the money doctor. He's Dr. Fred Rouse. And Fred, welcome to Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do.
Tom, I appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and who you are and what you do?
Okay. I'm Dr. Fred Rouse, the real money doctor. Okay. I've been doing this back since 86 or so. After 5 years in the Coast Guard, young kid at 17, wanted to run gunboats in Vietnam, but quite happily, they sent me to a lighthouse in Cape May. After that, we did 3 years of search and rescue and 1 year just playing on a base. Got out, joined respiratory therapy for a while. That was interesting. Had an upcoming son. And all of a sudden, I needed more money. Went through the papers, and that's when they had papers and classified ads. And went through, and they had an ad for financial services, $83,000 a year. Dude, caught my attention. It
big
was,
money back then.
It was a lot of nice money back then, way more than I was making playing respiratory therapy. So I did that for a couple of years and found out that my clients knew more than I did. Went and got my certified financial planning designation, which took a while. And then I changed over from selling life insurance to mutual funds to primarily doing tax work for small businesses, 0 to 6 employees, home-based guys. If they're multimillionaires, they're not talking to me. Again, I'm a blue-collar guy from South Philadelphia. My dad used to lay carpet, basically. And 4 kids in South Philadelphia, school shoes and play shoes. That was it for 4 kids. And it's a comfortable feeling. The people that work in that niche, the small business, the entrepreneurs, again, the home-based guys, the general contractors, the subcontractors, the solo dentists, the solo chiropractors, they're generally really nice people and they care. So that's where I've been playing for close to 30 years right now.
So you came out of sort of a blue-collar background, and you now work with sort of those people who are sort of the heart and soul of the business world, helping them sort of plan for that. So what caused you to go off on your own instead of just working for that big company? What made you have that entrepreneurial spark?
Most entrepreneurs, from what I've seen over the last 30 years, have sort of an attitude problem.
Do you have an attitude problem, Fred?
They don't like to be told what to do. They always think they've got a better idea. And the only way to have a better idea and to act on it is to run your own shop. So the compliance issues with selling mutual funds and life insurance and annuities and things were driving me crazy. They've only gotten worse. Mm-hmm. So I feel for the people that are playing in that area. I'm not one of them. And I'm not one of them for a very specific reason. Most of what they were doing wasn't long-term good for anybody. They got commissions out of it, but the people they were selling the mutual funds and life insurance to didn't really help them all that much in the long term. So that's where I'm at.
So what do you love about working for yourself? Let's talk about your own business, and then we'll talk about what you do for clients. What do you love about the fact that you work for Fred?
The nice thing that happens with any entrepreneur is that you really set your own schedule. You have no one else to answer to. If you run a really small shop, primarily just yourself, like I do, it's really nice. The flip side of that, obviously, is that you're working all the time.
I told someone that the other day. They said, "Oh, working for yourself must be nice. You have a lot of free time." I go, "Yes," and I fill it with working for myself.
It's an amazing thing. Instead of working 40 to 50 hours a week for somebody else, now you're working 80 to 100 hours a week for yourself. You don't feel quite that bad, but you do at the end of the day.
Well, and it is true, though, that it is a lot of work. But at the same time, my daughter, one time, I interviewed her on a podcast I was doing, kind of a live broadcast at a conference for the National Speakers Association, and somebody we were supposed to interview didn't show up, and my daughter was there. She participated in the Teen Leadership Conference that the National Speakers Association hosts for all the children and grandchildren of people who are in the speaking industry, and we expose them to some of the best leadership speakers in the world, and my daughters have both been participants of that since they were early teens, and my oldest was about 20 or 21 years old, and she was one of the counselors in the program. She was walking by, and we had sort of dead air. And so I'm like, "Jax, come here." And I sat her down in the chair. It was a video broadcast. And I'm like, "So this is my daughter." I'm like, "What's it like being the child of a professional speaker?" And she looks right at the camera and goes, "Well, you work all the time and you're gone a lot." And I thought, oh my God, we're just going to throw me under the bus in front of my own industry on a broadcast. And then she's
honest, at least. Yeah. She's honest.
But then she sort of tilted her head and said, "But at the same time, you're really around more than my friends whose parents have traditional jobs, because when you're home, you're home. You can drive me to school. You can come, pick me up after school. You can come to my, performances or my games or whatever it is." And she said, "So, when you're around, you're 100% around." And she goes, "I think that's better than if you were leaving the house at 6 and coming back at 6 every day." And I was like, wow, I never looked at it that way. So I am gone a lot, but when I'm home, I'm home.
Well, it's really nice because, yeah, you left the house at 6. What happened? Most people have a half an hour to an hour commute. That's dead time. If you're working out of your own house, run your own shop, you've recovered that time. And it looks good on paper. It really looks good on paper. And then you end up working through other things. But you do have the opportunity to schedule your time, which is really, really important for most entrepreneurs.
So let's talk a little bit about the money side for entrepreneurs, because that's what you've done for 30 years, is consulted with people who run their own businesses. What do entrepreneurs do wrong, and what do they need to know about their own financial health?
Most entrepreneurs, and this is from me not only working with other entrepreneurs for 30 plus years, but doing taxes also for that period of time. Everybody comes in with a new Schedule C business, and it's the easiest business to start. You raise your hand, "I'm in business," and you see them year after year. They start 2 or 3 of them, and they all fold. The Mary Kay, the Shackley Amway, the Fuller Brush, all those things. They're all novel, and they can do things. Some of those people actually make money. It's just when entrepreneurs get in, they don't understand the time commitment, and they don't understand the focus that's needed to actually accomplish something. They're all excited about the front end of it, and then there's some details that need to be addressed on a consistent basis. The consistency is what drives people crazy. Entrepreneurs have problems with consistency. They really do, because no one is telling them what to do. So now not only are they the employee, they're the employer. And most entrepreneurs were actually better employees than they were employers. They have a hard time focusing on the management side of things. That's what happens to most of them.
So what are they not doing right with their own money, though? I mean, that's, from the standpoint of planning for retirement and et cetera, what should they be thinking about?
They never get to their own money, which is the problem.
Gotcha.
They end up making enough money to live, and they live relatively comfortably. But if they stopped work for 6 or 8 weeks at a time, they'd all go under, every single one of them, because they really have nothing else to decide. They don't know what to do with it. And they get the standard financial advice from financial planners. Oh, $500-$600 a month, $700 a month away in a mutual fund. You buy this variable life insurance and you buy this annuity and life will be happy. Well, that sort of sounds good on paper on day number 1. 6 months into it now, all of a sudden, a car or a truck broke down. The house needs another air conditioner. It's down. The roof is not happy now. And you have to pull out your money. And this happens not only to entrepreneurs, but almost everybody. They pull their money out from what they were saving it in, and it never gets put back. And business is rough for small guys. Okay, every now and then they get sucked into what they think is going to be a big contract. And I've got, individual plumbers. I had a nice guy. He did trailers. He did office trailers, and he got this job with this company. And he traveled 30, 40 miles a day to get to this job to do these trailers for him. And he had a couple employees. What happens is you have to float the payroll. You float the materials and you float the payroll until you get paid. So every entrepreneur gets stuck with eventually a 60, 90-day payout. And all of a sudden they can't live with that. Something goes bad. Whoever they contracted with goes under, and it's ugly. I had one guy, general contractor, nice enough guy, had 2 partners actually. One was the street guy, was good with the contractors. The other one was good with the paperwork and making the contacts. They were doing office work in office parks. And what happened was they had finished a job for mortgage lenders, major company. And here it goes. It's the tail end of the job. It was December. They were due a check for $1.2 million or something or other. Okay. And they had 30, 40, 50 subcontractors. And we were actually cutting the checks for the subs at that point in time, which was interesting. It was time consuming, but it was interesting. Get their hands clean anyway. And lo and behold, December came and went. No check. Okay. 15 days later, they filed for bankruptcy. Okay. Mortgage lenders filed for bankruptcy. My guys got stuck. Not only did they get stuck, now my guys were general contractors. So as a general contractor, you get the phone on one hand, you get the job, and you pass it out on the other hand. Life is okay. They make their 4%. Life is good. All the subcontractors, though, had payroll and materials in there. They got burned big time. They didn't see anything for close to a year after the attorneys got hold of everything. And they ended up with maybe 15, 20 cents on a dollar.
So what advice do you have then for entrepreneurs who are going to go start a business? What do people need to do better? I mean, you've talked about the mistakes. What should people be doing?
They don't want to hear what they should be doing because they really can't.
They want to hear. My listeners want to hear.
They want to hear, but they don't. I'll tell them, but they're not going to do anything.
Tell them. Just tell them.
Okay.
Take the Band-Aid off, Fred.
Take the Band-Aid off. Okay. For all those dollars that you bring in, and you're bringing in a fair number of dollars, you really have to put close to 30 to 40% off to the side. If you can live on 40%, you bank 40% of what you're making, okay, and do something with it, you'll be in relatively good shape. But every entrepreneur wants to build their business, and they go out in a shoestring, and all of a sudden the credit cards are maxed out as they build that business. They think they're building the business, and eventually the credit cards come due. And if you got $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in credit cards, okay, and you're only pulling in maybe $15,000, $20,000 a month, okay, and you have other overhead expenses, it's a problem paying them down. So most people that are entrepreneurs do not have the management side of things down. They have the technical skills, but they don't have the management side of things. And without that, they're just working for everybody else. They don't realize it, but they are.
So what do they need to do? Come on, give them a little tough love.
Of their income, every dollar that comes in, they need to put at least 40% off to the side. But they don't.
40%. I don't know.
40%.
I don't know that I could do that.
How about that? That's why I said I can tell them they're not going to do it. They're not going to like it. They're not going to do it. You want the Band-Aid off. There it is. It's off. 40% off to the side. If you're an entrepreneur, every dollar you bring in, 40% has to go off to the side, and it has to be untouched.
So what do they do if they're not making enough to support their family?
How about that?
This? Yeah.
That's the big problem. Okay. And that's where every entrepreneur is at. Okay. Because they're not making enough. They can't get enough jobs. Their marketing is shaky. Okay. Which is situation. They don't market worth a shit. They think they do, and they're doing all these things. They're never focused on who is my client. If they were focused on who is my client, okay, and just sell to that one person, amazing things would happen. More of that one person is around, but they want to sell to groups and they don't want to alienate anybody. Here I am. I'm 60 plus right now. I don't care about anybody I alienate. I have a certain core group that I work with. These people love me. I have their best interest at heart. When I tell them something that, oh yeah, I don't like it, but yeah, Dr. Fred said so, it must be so. Well, I'm glad. However, okay, now I want you to take some action. And you have to modify things. And it's a real simple process. And everybody understands it. Nobody does it. Okay, the simple process is you have to decide what you want to accomplish, not only on a daily basis, but in your life. And I get everybody, and I do this thing I call grave to life planning. And it's really obscene because what do you want to have people think about you? What do you want to have accomplished when they put you in the grave? At that moment in time, what do you want to have done? Okay. What do you want to have done on a personal level? Okay. What do you want to have done on a business level, on a family level? And then what have you have done? What did you give back to the community at that point in time? If you focus on those four things, interesting things happen during the day as life happens to you. All those emergency situations, those urgent situations that you thought you needed to attend to, that phone call, that piece of mail, that email, whatever it was, all of a sudden they tend to drop off because is this really going to move me to accomplishing those things that I decided were important to me? So first you have to decide what they are. Then on a daily basis, you have to assess, okay, you have to write them down. If you don't write them down, they never happened.
I always say that a goal not written down is just a wish.
It's a dream.
Yeah.
And they come and they go. It's pixie dust. You have to write it down. And then you have to be really pain in the ass. And I tell everybody, write them down on 3x5 cards and carry them with you. And if you don't look at them constantly, to remind yourself, this is what I said I wanted to do this. I made a decision at one point in time. This is what I wanted to do. Okay, now that decision could change, but you took the time, you made this decision. This is what I wanted to do. Now, okay, do I still want to do that? Yes. Okay, is what I'm doing today helping me to accomplish that? If not, you have to change direction. If you think you're doing something, then you assess that direction, and then you go and you do it again.
So I have two guys who I mentor. I talk about them a lot on the show. I talk about them in my speeches. They call me Dad. In fact, one of them was at our Father's Day luncheon, and my daughter, who doesn't live in Austin, was like, "Jake comes to Father's Day now." She saw a picture on Facebook, and I'm like, yes. And I go, Nick was invited as well, but he actually was with his real dad, so he couldn't come. But so they call me their fake dad. But I tell them all the time, and it's an ongoing joke with them and I, because I always am on them about what is their goal, what do they want. It's great that you've got this good job. It's not what you want to do for the rest of your life. What do you want? And I'm always pushing them, and I tell them once you know the goal, it makes it really easy to answer all the tough choices that come your way. Because all you have to do, and this is kind of what you just said, is all you have to do is say, does this action bring me closer to the goal or farther from the goal? And then you know how to choose the things that you'll do all day.
See how simple? We don't even need to be on a show. Everybody knows these things. They just don't do them.
Right. Well, that's I teach this thing I call the paradox of potential, because we get really excited about, our own potential in our careers or our companies, but potential is not a solution, and potential does not equal results. And so you've sort of already answered this, but I'm going to ask the question kind of really point blank. Why do some people who start a business get farther across that gap and some people just fall into the abyss? How come some people are able to get more success than others?
Some people can actually focus. And what happens with most entrepreneurs is they really have a focus problem. They get tied up in the urgent things. They may have been good, technically, working for someone else. This happens to CPA types a lot at accountings. Okay, all of a sudden, you got a junior accountant, he works for a firm, and he thinks, I can do this. Okay, no big deal. And he leaves the firm, starts his own company, and steals one or two of the clients. Lo and behold, within 6-8 months, he's broke because he was good at the technical aspect of doing accounting, but he was terrible at the management aspect of running a business. Most entrepreneurs don't know anything about running a business. They're good at their technical thing. And because they think they can run a business. but there's obviously more to it, and it takes them a while to figure that out. For the people who can bridge the gap between the technical side and the management side of running a company, because you're running a company. But entrepreneurs don't think they're running a company because it's just them. Mm-hmm. It's just them and another guy. No, you're running a company. You are management. If you don't think of yourself as a management, okay, you'll get employee type results. You need somebody to direct you.
Right.
Which means that if there's nobody to direct you, your company's going to fail. Most of them do.
Yeah, no, that's a really good answer. So, Fred, I've got a couple more questions for you before I let you go. But first, I got to thank the other sponsor of this episode. So this podcast is brought to you by Podfly Productions. Podfly takes the time and the headache out of creating your own podcast. They set you up with the right equipment, training, and guidance to ensure that you're going to sound amazing. Podfly does all the heavy lifting and that pesky technical work so that you can focus on creating great content, growing your audience, and interviewing really cool people like Dr. Fred Rouse. Hey, if you want to start a podcast, and I know that some of you do, jump over to podfly.net/coolthings and check out the offer that they have for the listeners of this show. And I've been working with them now for almost 400 episodes, and I say it all the time. They're one of the best vendors I have ever used in any aspect of any business I've ever been in. Love the people at Podfly. Thank you for your continued sponsorship, Podfly people. So, Fred, I call the show Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. What is the coolest thing you're doing in your business right now?
Actually, the coolest thing is actually the business itself right now. After close to 30 years of working with small businesses, 0 to 6 employees, primarily on the tax side of things, some payroll, but again, small stuff only. We have niched this down, and I have finally been able to come up a way to help people that are 50 and older who don't have $850,000 in savings so they can actually retire in the next 5 to 7 years.
But aren't you going to make them take 40% of their top line and put it over on the side?
They can, but they haven't. That's the problem.
I fall into that. I almost have that much money at 50 years old, just a little shy. But even that, I read a thing that said that if I'm really on track at 50, I had to be worth $1 million. And I was like, I'm not there.
And it's probably closer to the truth. But most people don't even have $50,000 saved.
Yeah, no,
it's scary.
Fortunately, I got more than $50,000 saved.
I'm glad.
I'm shy of the fanciful 7-figure number. So,
but if you're going to retire, that's where you need to be.
Yeah.
And $1 million isn't doing it these days. Yeah, to lead a reasonable lifestyle, you're talking at least 1.5 mil.
Yeah. Well, that's why they say at 50 you got to have the one, right? Because you can do it then.
And then hopefully the market doesn't crash on you because where your funds invested at.
Well, it's funny. I was at this podcasters conference and I was talking to somebody who was kind of on my case because my business is kind of a one-trick pony. I make almost all my income speaking at conferences and doing trainings for companies. And they're like, oh, what if you get sick? What if this happens? What if that happens? And, you should have courses and you should have this and you should have that. And I'm like, yeah, but it takes a lot of work to make the money I make just, doing what I do. And they were like, yeah, but if you have these other things, you'll have something so you could leave a legacy for your children. And I laughed and I said, I have a legacy for my children. And the guy was like, yeah, well, he wanted to know, what is that? I'm like, it's called being a good dad. I'm not worried about leaving my kids anything, but I am concerned about my wife and I being able to live out our lives comfortably. So I'm not worried about having giant amounts of money. I just got to make sure that we take care of my wife and I through however long we live.
That's an exceptionally important thing to do. And most people, that's what they like to do. But they come up against that money issue every time. And what happens is, especially with entrepreneurs, is that it's really, really easy to put it off because you're doing all these important things with your business every day, all these important things. And it gets put off and put off and put off. And by the time you hit 50, you wonder about it, you put it off. 55, you're not feeling real good, but I've got these important things to do. When you hit 60, oh, God, I really need to do something, but I've got these important things to do.
So I got a quick question for you. Does 60 sneak up on you as fast as 50 did?
Remember when you were a kid and those summers lasted forever?
Yeah.
Not now.
Well, you
they
still
move fast.
I met you. You still have a lot of energy. You don't seem like you're in your 60s.
That's because I paint the beard first. Before I go to events, I paint the beard. Otherwise, it's scary. Silver and gray and white.
That's funny. So I love to ask everyone who comes on the show who it is they admire in the world of entrepreneurship, because you're doing cool things with your business, but the reality is, I think entrepreneurs are observers, and I think that the guests on this show always have the most interesting people who they admire. So when you look at the entrepreneur sphere, who do you say, hey, she's doing something cool or he's doing something cool?
I don't have any one individual person, which is sort of interesting, because as I go through and I get older, I try and keep my mind open to as much as is humanly possible. Most people, as they get older, they turn into grumpy characters, and they really do.
I'm looking forward to getting grumpy. What are you talking about?
They've been through things, and their patience level drops off with idiots. And you want to just, if you find an idiot, they wave a red flag at you. They stick out. They really do. And you just walk the other way quickly. But if you can keep your mind open, I have a really good time talking with different people to find out what they're doing. I was just recently in Austin, and here's the guy on an Uber, an Afghanis guy. Been here for 4 years. He made the mistake of working with the U.S. forces, and he was an interpreter for them. They had to rush him out of the country for his own safety. 4 years he hasn't seen his family, his wife and his kids. Okay, so you learn from that, and all of a sudden you get a different feeling for things. Okay?
Yeah, your life doesn't sound so bad when you hear that story.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, I'm working hard, but God, I really get to see my family every day. This is okay. I'm not doing all that bad. I could be doing better. And so we try and help people to do better, but you have to understand where you are in the rest of the world. People like Elon Musk, very interesting story. Okay, there was a guy, a baseball player. I forget his name, but he did a film with the DNA Agency, Nick Nanton, 5-time Emmy Award producer, called Esperanza. And this baseball player did summer camp somewhere down in South America. And the kids were coming up to him. It might have been in Mexico. I forget where. And they're coming up to him after the game. And he thought they wanted his autograph. They were actually looking for money and for food. So he went back a couple of years later, him and his wife, and they started doing microloans to people in the community. All of a sudden now, microloan, $100, $200, and in this particular community, they started their own businesses. Life was good now. He made a difference. I couldn't watch the damn thing without crying. It was terrible. Okay, it took me no time at all. But there's a lot of interesting people if you keep your mind open to them, and you can learn a little bit from everybody.
So that kind of leads me right into the next question, and that is, I think entrepreneurs, we've got to do something to leave our mark on the world. So what do you do for the greater good?
My business right now is basically geared to the greater good. Okay, my goal basically is to help as many people as humanly possible get, protect, and enjoy their money, life, and retirement. What happens is they've been busy their entire lives, 30, 40, 50 years, and now they listen to all the financial guys, and they think doing the same thing they've been doing for 40 or 50 years, doing more of it, doing it faster, doing it harder, is going to make a difference. It's the same result. Faster, harder, and no change. So we've come up with a system again, and I'm really happy. I get a few people a month, let them into the system, and we show them exactly how they can very comfortably make very, very nice dollars and retire in 5 to 7 years. And that's what I do for people at this point in time. I'm having a good time. The people are involved. It's not a get-rich-quick thing. They can't. I tell them, look, if we let you in the program, I guarantee you for the first 9 to 10 weeks, you're not going to make a dime out of it. I guarantee you that. But after that, you'll know how to make between $30,000 to $50,000 a year in the first year once you start doing this thing. And it can grow from there easily to $120 to $250 a year. For a lot of people, that's more money than they were making when they were actually working a job.
Right.
So or Fred, in their businesses.
So Fred, if people want to find out more about you and what you do, how do they find you? How do they locate you?
Google search is real easy. drfredrouse.com is the website. Dr. Fred Rouse, the Real Money Doctor, any of those things. I come up all over the place. YouTube channel, everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your advice with the audience of Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. Any last words?
I want to thank you for having me, and thanks for your sponsors. They seem like really nice folks.
Yeah, no, I'm lucky. I work with my sponsors, and they support the show, so it's a good thing. Hey, thank you to everybody who tuned in. I say it every time. If it wasn't for the audience, we wouldn't have a show. If you like the show, go tell somebody. Leave a review on iTunes or wherever. And if you want to find out more about me, go to tomsinger.com. That's THOMSINGER.com. I'd love to come speak at your company or for whatever association you are involved with. I think I do some fun stuff, and I'd love to have at least a conversation. Maybe I should be put on that short list of people that you talk to for your next event. Hey, we're going to be back in a couple of days with an interview with somebody just as cool as Dr. Fred Rouse. And you're thinking, what? How will you ever find somebody as cool? But I will. But in the meantime, I'm going to challenge you to do two things. Go out and try something new and have a great day doing it.
Thank you for being part of the Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do podcast. Without your participation and listening to these conversations, there is no show. Connect with Tom at tomsinger.com and follow him on Twitter at tomsinger.